It's such a lie.
Yeah.
She's missing. Tell him what you're missing.
I'm quarantined in my house with my mother, and we've been watching Outlander every night for like 2 weeks. And we're in the season 2 finale, and I had to come record this podcast, and my mom wouldn't let me turn it off, so she's watching the Battle of Culloden in the other room, and I can hear it.
Oh, no.
I can hear the battle, and I'm here with you, and I love you, and we're procrastinators, which is why we had to get it done today.
That is right. Yeah.
But
I appreciate your sacrifice, and I know Jamie appreciates it too.
Oh my God, young Jamie. But I just feel betrayed. This is like rule number 1 with binging. You don't watch when the other one's not there.
Yep. And especially when you live together, there's no excuse.
I know. And especially on a season finale. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yep.
All the rules she broke.
Side, babe.
She broke it with zero fucks, too. Like, she doesn't care at all.
Well, you're here now. And, oh, by the way, your name's Gabby. My name's Liz. Hello.
Hello. Podcast
I think
rated.
our voices are pretty different, so people should be able to tell us apart. That's my prediction.
Do you like your voice?
I feel like my voice, like everything about me, has no center.
It has no center?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Sometimes I'm listening to myself and I'm like, who is she? I've never heard this voice before.
I feel similar too. I don't relate to my voice. I don't hear it and go, oh yeah, that's what I sound like. It always is like, ugh, is that what I sound like?
Right? That awful sensation of like, when you're listening back on yourself, that's bad. But I get that when I'm talking, when I hear myself talk in real time. I'm like, oh no.
Oh my goodness.
Oh no. This is me? That. Does that explain a lot about me? Because I struggle with this every day. Today I had to answer the phone. It went so badly. I was stumbling over all my words. I said like the wrong greeting. It was just like, oh my God.
You're like, hello? What the fuck is that?
Yeah. It's because I was doing something else, and then this chick was like, Elizabeth, can you get that? And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, the phone? And I'm like, oh, okay. Sure, yeah. Of course. Hi, this is Elizabeth. How can I help you?
Yeah, it's like that. Is this whatever? It's like, no, this is Patrick. Is it the Krusty Krab?
Yeah.
No, this is Patrick.
This is Patrick. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah. Well, editing the podcast must be fun for you then if you have no center.
Mm-hmm. It's a little bit better because there is like an objective truth on a recording, which is helpful for people like me who have like weird perceptive issues. Anyway. So you're
okay. I just want you to know you're okay.
Oh, thank you.
And I love your voice. It centers me, if that's any consolation.
It sounds what?
It centers me.
Oh. That's so neat.
All right, enough of that.
Enough of that, and let's get on to something that we thought would be fun. Well, we thought a couple things. We thought this whole thing should be fun. But one of the things beneath that fun, like a subcategory of fun within the fun.
An inception of fun.
Yeah. We have to go deeper, Gabby. So, before we get totally incepted. Yeah, the first layer is we haven't named the podcast yet. But we did talk earlier today about some of the options. So just to introduce the process and how weird it was, and I don't know where Gabby got this from, but she decided, without telling me this is how she thought we would come up with a name, she's like, hey, think of like 10 or so things that remind you of me and write them down so that we can talk about it when we talk next. And I was thinking like, oh, this is Gabby's on like a self-improvement kick. Like she is like busting her balls during this quarantine to just
goodness.
like be a cool ass bitch. And I was like, this is cute. Like this is a little project where she's like asking her friends like about, anyway, she tells me like last night, like this is how we're picking the name of our podcast is I came up with a list and so did you. And I was like, oh shit. So the things that I wrote on my list are
Can I just stop you for 2 seconds and say,
yes, you can.
Even though you thought this was like a journey of self-fulfillment, yours are like Dr. Pepper and ketchup and things like that. How was that going to help me on my journey? I don't understand.
I'm so glad you asked that. The thing is, I'm a visual thinker. And so like I'm thinking about that branding. I'm thinking about like how you're going to represent different aspects of yourself in like a collage.
Right.
And so I'm like, here's what the ketchup represents. Here's what the sheets mean. It's intimacy. It's barrier. It's touch. It's sexual. Yeah. So I was trying to help you out.
Okay. That would be an interesting collage.
Right?
Yeah.
With orange. Party oranges in it.
So we each brought 10 things. And we were going to combine them. Just try and make a funny phrase or something to come up with a podcast name.
Yeah. So long story short, we generated some options earlier. Just kind of by chance, I wrote down like maybe 80% of what we thought could be the options. Definitely biased towards the things I thought were funny about 12 hours ago.
Yeah, because I didn't have a pen, so she was the documenter.
So I was the record keeper. So, okay, and you'll just have to imagine what our original lists looked like, because we don't have time to go over that, and I think it'd be funny if you guys guessed. We did allow for some, meandering off the path. So here's what the options are, in no particular order, really. Gecko with the good hair.
Yes.
Incredible spirit. Tenacious confessional.
Beautiful.
Bitches for J-Joel. And for those of you who might not be familiar with J-Joel and how it's spelled.
No.
Because I didn't know that. J-Joel. Standard spelling of J-Joel is JGL, and it stands for Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yes, preach.
So that's who J-Joel is. So get used to it, because we'll talk about it a lot. So bitches for J-Joel was an option.
Yeah.
A very good, perhaps excellent option as well.
It is. And very definitive of our college years.
Yeah, bitches for J-Joel is great. But so is topping J-Joel.
Uh-huh.
Topping J-Joel.
She's a fan of that one.
Mm-hmm. Next, obsession confession. Next, bar talk confessional. Bar talk ketchup. It's a ketchup with a K.
Yeah.
And then kind of the last one is for J-Joel. And you could spell that for J-Joel, like a letter for J-Joel.
Or just spelling out F-O-R.
Yeah, F-O-R space J-G-L.
Right.
Which is great. It's got like that 3 and 3. It's balanced, like there's a lot there.
It's grammatically correct, right?
It is. And I think it would give us structure and purpose if we're really just thinking about this as like one giant scrapbook to send to J-Joel.
Yeah. A love letter. Of
Sonic scrapbook. Yeah. So
better
that's
than a
standard
sexy
for
top,
J-Joel.
that.
That's right. So that's standard for J-Joel spelling. A great alternative, though, is if you really put the IKEA spin on it. And I think it's a P-H-E with the umlauts on it. R-J-A but maybe it's an A with an E combo. I don't know what that's called.
I don't know either, but I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, so for Jagel is what I'm thinking. A nice thick accent on that. Okay. So, those are our options. We're both weighing them out during the course of this episode, and at the end we're going to pick it, and that's going to be the name.
Yeah. Please call in.
How do you feel about that? Yeah. How do you feel about that, Gabby? Are you excited? Do you think that there is the name in that list?
I think there could be. There's a couple where I would be happy enough with it. I do like that we took these things that reminded us of each other, because then it would be a representation of our friendship, which is the best way to name something, I think.
Totally. And something that you brought up earlier is that it lets us have, we're not just talking about a reality show. We could be talking about like all random shit, and it's all relevant because it's all about us.
Yes. This is just the Lizzie Gabby show.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, I'm really excited. And then one thing that I realized earlier today is that, dear listeners, you may not know this, but and maybe you'll never know this with the way things are turning out, but when we were talking about shit having to do with the podcast like a week or so ago, Gabby said something like, it's got to be LG, Liz and Gabby. It's got to, have the two of us in it, something like that. But she was talking about a rating.
Yes.
Anyway, it was a bit confusing to me. But something that's really, really special about Jagel is that Jagel has G and L in it.
Oh.
So for Jagel could be for Joseph, Gabby, Lizbeth.
Oh my gosh.
Just think about that, okay?
Essentially the best threesome that ever existed, I think.
Exactly. And it's not just for Jagel, Joseph, it's for us too.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, so these are all still in contention.
These are all, yes.
We are leaning towards one continuously.
Yeah, but who knows? By the end of this conversation, we may decide that that's not great. So, yeah, stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Okay, so what did we do this week, Gabby?
During this podcast, we're going to be recapping the premiere episode of season 35 of the challenge called Total Madness, which I thought was quite exciting. Yes. And we're going to be kind of going through that in 4 different sections, which is a general blueprint of how most episodes will break down. Sometimes they try to stretch it out. You have an episode with nothing but parties. But generally speaking, the formula is, your intro, some drama in the beginning, lots of talking, and then you have your challenge. You have your usually club scene or party at the house scene, as well as elimination talk, tribunal hearings, and then you have your elimination. That's how every episode will go. So that's how we're going to kind of structure our conversation today about the challenge. Because, it's a good time. Liz has not watched a lot of reality TV. I have watched a lot. So we thought it'd be fun to compare our reactions to it, really.
Yeah. Yeah, and okay, just something that came up for me while you were talking about that is that, so we're going to get into this, but there's a lot of people who are in that like initial pool. There's a lot of people on this show, Yes. Is the number of people on the show essentially the number of episodes it's going to be?
No.
No?
No, because you never know how many people are going to be participating in the final at the end. It could be a team of people. Mm-hmm. It could be just a handful of people. They could also, sometimes they do double eliminations a couple times where they knock down the numbers. Sometimes they even do redemption houses where like none of these people go home for like ever. And then sometimes they have stages in the final where people get knocked out as you go. So you never can really base it off of the people that remain.
Right. Okay. So that's interesting because that's like a really obvious difference between something like America's Next Top Model, for example, where like every episode one girl goes home, basically. I mean, I'm sure there's been hella seasons of that, so I think they've totally changed that up too, but yeah. Okay, good to know.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yay. Okay, I took so many notes from this episode. I watched this when Leo was over, my boyfriend Leo.
Shout out to Lee Man.
Shout out to the L boy. So I saw him for a few days. It's quarantine time, so it's not always the easiest to see everybody. So, but I needed to watch the challenge while he was over. So he watched it too, and I told him explicitly, basically, like, I'm not going to talk about this with you, really. I'm really going to talk about this with Gabby only, so too bad. But he did have a couple reactions that he couldn't help, so it was interesting.
You were like, you can watch this, but don't emote and don't talk to me.
Don't influence me because I need to be untainted.
Yes. Well, tell me along the way what he reacted to as we talk about it. I'm curious.
Totally
Okay. So do you want to just get into it?
Sure.
Okay. So the intro, which I think is going to be the intro. I think this is just like their opening credits where they're in the helicopter. Everything has like a creepy red filter. There's ominous music. You have like these shots of their faces. They're all serious going into battle. There's flares as TJ's like, over here. It's very like post-apocalyptic, right? I think that just serves as, they're going to use that as opening credits, really. But
okay.
how do you feel like that translated to, this is our season?
Personally, like, when all that shit was going down, I was pretty confused, and also, like, because I haven't watched a lot of reality shows, a lot of things that maybe, like, don't get noticed by people who've watched many, that they're just kind of used to, really stood out to me. So, like, you know, the intro's supposed to be, like, intense and intimidating and things like that, but, like, I was just distracted by, like, would they really wave flashers like that? Or, like, this girl's lip injections. Like, what the fuck? You know? Yeah. Things like that. I'm just like... And also, you know... So, they played a classic song during this segment I took note of, which is that song, Where's Your Head at? Where's your head at? Oh, where's your head at? And
totally.
Oh my god, because that song was on like the Charlie's Angels soundtrack, like OG back in the day.
And these
so
are interesting things to notice.
I was like surprised too that it was like an old song, and they like did the weird MTV thing where they like roll out a little side scroll saying like what song is playing right now. And I'm like, oh my god, I forgot MTV did this shit. So I was just like distracted by a lot of things immediately, and so I think it just didn't land as being like intimidating. I was like, this is ridiculous, you know?
Yeah, I don't think you'd be alone in the I was not intimidated by this camp at all.
Right.
I mean, because it's cheesy. There's these, as someone who knows these people, most of them, to see them with these intense faces, like, it's all fake. It's like, hey guys, give us an intense face. Get in this helicopter for a second. We're going to pretend blah, blah, blah. I'm not as intimidated either. But, like, I think it's interesting that they're trying to set up a mood for sure. They definitely didn't do this in earlier seasons. Earlier seasons, it was definitely more casual. So it's like they're a full-on production at this point.
Totally.
Like, let me set this mood. And the trailers, we talked about the trailer not too long ago.
Yeah.
When we were discussing it earlier. But those were creepy. The images they were using to market it were creepy. So they're definitely setting a tone. Even if we don't believe it, they're setting it.
Yeah, they're putting a lot of interns towards the task of setting a mood.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. Yeah, I mean, so they, like, I guess arrived in some kind of helicopter or something.
It's almost like we're in a video game or something. Because we're, like, looking up at the sky. And I feel like they're doing those creepy cuts with, like, static or something.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then they're like walking through the forest. So to me, I always think, and this may not actually be true. You know, who knows how they actually arrive from the airport? They all ride together, but they're like, we're walking through a forest. So they just got there. They're walking through a forest, and then they get in front of TJ, who explains the rules.
Yeah.
And so we do get those cast little tidbits. The first person we hear from is Jordan, who's actually one of the champions of last season. And he kind of looks like a monk or something this season with his weird hair. But that guy. Yeah, and he wears, like, quote unquote vintage clothing with, like, all these holes in it. So he's got a very monkly appearance this season. So yeah, you mentioned bananas. So they set off the bananas and West rivalry right away, which is years old. Did that register with you at all? Do you care at all?
I mean, I thought it was a bit much. You know, I like appreciated that there were some emotions that these dudes were feeling, but
was it too soon, you think?
I think whoa. For me, it was kind of too soon to be like, yeah, I don't know. Honestly, for me, and we'll definitely talk about this later, but some of those sorts of, like, when the show tells you directly kind of its perspective, and I think something that I definitely want to talk about later is during the party scene where everyone's getting drunk around each other for the first time, at least this season. Yeah. Like, Nani is telling that her boy toy or whatever, like, you can get a lot out of this experience. You know, it's not just fake. Yeah. Like, you can get shit out of that. And it's funny because Nani's telling that to this dude, but in a way, it's like the show telling it to the viewer. It's like, I know there's a lot of bullshit and a lot of nonsense, but you can get something from
I like
this.
That. See,
right?
In my head, I was like, Nani's just trying to get on that dick, because she does this a lot. This is her speech a lot. But you're right. You're totally right.
But, yeah, so that was kind of like, you know, a kind of example of the show, like, admitting that it's a show, if that makes sense. And so, like, I think that because they weren't really that tongue-in-cheek with the editing at the beginning, where they were kind of like, this is serious and this isn't a joke, putting that Bananas Hates Wes segment thing just kind of felt like, yeah, like, that's not landing. If that had come up during, like, the party scene, it might have felt more genuine, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think Wes and Johnny are two of the biggest names, so they bring in a lot of viewers. So I think they try to put them in as much as they can to be like, hey, they're here, stay tuned, keep watching, don't leave. They do that a lot. They do that with CT as well. But I can understand how, like, if you have no context, you're like, whoa, we just got to the forest, man.
Totally. It's just like, I hate that guy. Why is he over there? I'm like, oh my god, you're like an animal. I
wrote down his quote too. That was like, I looked to my side and just happened to see one of the ugliest things I've ever seen. Wes Bergman. And see, that's the kind of thing that makes me laugh so hard, because they've been doing this for like 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
Yeah. But you mentioned Nani's boy toy earlier. Mm-hmm. And we're going to call him Asaf. That's his name.
Yeah, Asaf.
I don't often care about the new people. I'm going to be very transparent about that. But as he was, like, walking through that forest, and they had the best shots of his hair, his long, like, wavy hair, I was like, who is that? I was on the Nani train. Me and Nani were, like, eye to eye. Because she went after that hard. I was intrigued by him immediately.
I was not. I mean, the fact that he was on... So he was on Celebrity Ninja Warrior was what he said.
You pay attention to the stuff that I literally do not. I love it. Okay. Yes.
And I was like, don't you have to be a celebrity to be on Celebrity Ninja Warrior? Who are you? And then he said, so later in the episode, he's brought up again, right? They're just showing the briefest clips and blowing my mind with each of them, because I'm just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
But yeah, his brief ass clip, they expand upon later, and they say that he was on Celebrity Ninja Warrior Israel.
Yes.
And that, like, he's on, like, Israel versions of different, like, American original productions, right?
Yeah.
So then I was like, oh, like, he's, like, hometown hero sort of thing. And so my first impression was, like, this kid's a joke, like, Celebrity Ninja Warrior, like, what the fuck? Like, who are you? But later, you know, I think they did him a disservice by just putting him in there to show that he was on Celebrity Ninja Warrior.
Yeah. Maybe they're like you, and all these people are blowing their mind, and they're like, so they're just like pick one thing as he's listing his credentials. They're like, okay, cool, I'll pick that one, because he was also on So You Think You Can Dance, and he didn't say specifically Israel, so I think he was just on So You Think You Can Dance. Then he was the winner of Celebrity Big Brother Israel. And then I think he said he was the winner of Celebrity Ninja Warrior Israel. So he doesn't just participate. Okay. He's like the winner of a lot of this shit.
Yeah.
He keeps saying that he's savage. A bit there. Yeah, you kind of cut out too. But okay, so the only other thing I wanted to mention about the intro is that I think it would be misleading if you were at all paying attention to what they're titled. They put like vet under a lot of people. For example, Jenny, they had vet under her name. She's the one with those like crazy filler lips. Yeah. And she's like really strong. Her first season was last season, and they already have vet under her name. And back in the day, you used to really have to work hard to be considered a vet. You had to do like 3 or 4 challenges before someone would call you a vet. So I just think it's interesting the way that they set this kind of stuff up. The vernacular has changed, and it gets a lot of egos flowing that really shouldn't be flowing.
Interesting. So one of the reactions that Leo had, was that, so I wasn't really paying attention to the vet thing at all until Leo turned to me, because I assumed immediately it was like, oh, they've been on a season before, that's what that means. Yeah. But Leo turned to me after a minute, and he was like, are all these people in the army? Like, he thought they were war veterans. I was like, whoa, no.
No, it's harder than the army.
Yeah. Anyway, one other reaction that he had before we move on from the intro was that, so we had watched like a Jackie Aina YouTube video like the night before or something. It's quarantine, we have time. Yeah. And I mean, I love her, she's the best, but yeah, Leo was like actually watching the whole thing. And then
was it like a makeup tutorial?
Well, yeah, she's always like doing makeup. This one was like about how to use foundations that work with your natural skin tone and like the different area. Anyway, yeah,
I love
it was
that
about
Leo's
foundation.
listening to this. Yeah.
I know. And so then when they were arriving and they had the rookie Bailey, I think her name is, show up on screen for like a second because she's going to be important in this episode, Leo immediately was like, her foundation doesn't match.
Yes, I thought the same thing. Did you think that too?
I did too, but the fact that he said it first, I was like, fuck yeah, dude.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely. She did not reach her foundation down into her neck for sure.
Yep.
At least try and hide it.
Yep.
Oh, Bailey. Okay. So the next part of the episode was the challenge, which was called Battle Lines. So there's like this big battlefield. They had like 2 tanks on the like framing TJ as he's explaining this episode. Yeah. They have these red medical barrels that they have to like drag before the tanks like eat them up, basically. So this was an individual challenge, but TJ did mention that they would perform in teams or pairs in the future. So you never know who your teammate's going to be that day.
Okay.
Which is cool. They did this before on Free Agents at this point, almost like 10 seasons back, where you kind of change partners every day, which I like because you cannot strategize any particular way. You have to just work with what you got. So that was kind of where he started to also outline what they were going to win, welcome them to the challenge and stuff. Usually he does that before they like do all the getting into the house and the talking and stuff. So that was interesting.
Yeah. So I think a quote that I wrote down for this. So his name is CJ or TJ?
TJ Lavin.
TJ.
He's a DMX spiker.
So weird. Okay, TJ was like, yeah, you guys are gonna have to like embrace the madness and survive.
Yes, that's what I wrote down too.
Okay. Yeah, so funny. But basically he said that there was like $1 million at stake, right? Like,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, $1 million. And what they've been doing a lot lately is sometimes they have you split it. Sometimes one person wins $1 million. Sometimes you have to split it with a partner. Sometimes you can take it from your partner. So they don't know. Like, there's a possibility that they themselves can be the sole winner.
Right.
Of this $1 million. It's taxable, but still. So.
Okay.
And then I wrote down a few of his quotes as well. So I put embrace the madness. He said, no one knows what's coming. And then the path was like filled with uncertainty. So all of these things that are supposed to make us go like, oh, he's very dramatic. TJ's very dramatic.
Yeah.
He said, this will be the hardest thing you've ever done. So I hope this as a viewer is getting you on the edge of your seat.
I don't know if I was on the edge of my seat, but I was feeling something, I guess. I was like, oh shit, all right.
Yeah. Okay. So they start the challenge, and the boys go first. And they were asking him, like, who do you think's gonna win? Everyone thought maybe Wes would win, maybe CT would win.
Right.
And they have to, like, pull this barrel to the next one. They have to solve a puzzle. They have to solve an equation at some point. They never do well when they bring math in. These challenges just never do well. And then they gotta drag it again. So.
Right.
What did you think of the actual challenge? The boy part, at least.
Yeah. So for one, I'd say that as a person like watching this kind of thing for the first time, I was like pretty confused because I didn't know what the tank would do.
Yeah.
Like they were like, and we're gonna run over shit, and I was like, okay, like what does that mean? you know, like what does happen when you run over a rope with a tank? Does it automatically get destroyed, or is there a chance like it could survive it? I don't know. I was like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
And then another thing was that like I wish that they had done like almost like a drone cam footage. Maybe they did, but I didn't see it, of like basically the layout of the course and like what the, like where you started and where you ended, because like they really skipped over that. And so people were pulling in barrels, and then you couldn't tell exactly like who was winning and who was losing, because there's a second barrel step, and you're like, that looks exactly like the first step, and I can't tell who's where anymore.
Yeah.
So it was a little confusing, but like by the time I had seen it once with the boys, when I saw it with the girls, I was like, oh, okay, I got it.
Yeah, it does get chaotic, especially I feel like these challenges where there's so many people, it's like the camera doesn't know who to track. Yeah. Or, like, unless they want a 40-minute scene with a challenge, they can't possibly follow everybody's story.
Totally.
So...
yeah. It is amazing. I mean, considering, you know, I'm editing this podcast and that's just two of us and it's not even a visual medium. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah. No,
have like, you know, 30 cameras worth of footage and hours of it must be impossible. For sure.
Editors make reality TV. Reality TV would be nothing without editors. And speaking of the editing, I wanted to like notate these crazy battle shots that they did. They would do like close up of the barrels with the tanks coming at them ominously. Yeah. And then like there was more red filter stuff. Crazy intense like Spartan music. Yeah.
And the slow-mos of like running over. It was they had some like camera attached to the tank or something so that you could see TJ. Like, it's TJ can't be driving the tank, right?
Yeah.
Because he's got his head out the top and he's like screaming at people. And so he's just like a weird little mascot dude. Like,
yeah. Just assume that TJ is a facade, because everything he does is a lie. Like, apparently he doesn't even, like, he says the rules of the game before they're even there. So by the time the people are lined up, he's just bullshitting lines. And then he like will film these shots before they're there. Like, TJ's just a facade. It's
totally.
But
so interesting.
So in the first round, a lot of people get eliminated. But I wanted to just mention a few people I was surprised made it pretty far. Nelson and Corey. Are you picturing either of them?
No. Wait, actually Corey. Corey,
he kind of has like curly-ish hair. Like, really, yeah. I don't know how to describe Corey, because he's just Corey. He used to have like a Jerry curl, but I don't think he has it anymore.
He's African American, right?
Yes.
And he's got a really nice smile, right? That's Corey, right?
Yeah.
He looks like a nice guy. Yeah.
Corey, he's great. He's known for sleeping with a lot of women on the challenge. At one point, he was in a house with like three of the girls that he hooked up with, and he took it like a champ, smiled through it. I actually wanted to note one of Corey's quotes, like his tidbit, if you will, for the episode. He's like, my girlfriend Taylor is pregnant. We're expecting a kid. I just laughed really hard, and maybe no one else did. But I feel like they asked him, what are you expecting? And he's like, we're expecting a kid. I feel like that was his response. Instead of being like, a boy or girl, my girlfriend Taylor's pregnant. We're expecting a kid. I'm like, Corey.
That's really funny that you thought that.
That is the essence of Corey. So him and Nelson are part of an alliance. They're called the Young Buck Alliance, trying to like overtake the vets like Johnny and stuff like that. So they made it pretty far, which I'm very surprised by. CT, he made it through. He was part of the top 3. Rogan was part of the top 3, along with Fessy. Fessy's a rook, so that's always surprising when a rook makes it far, especially on the first challenge. And it was individual. And I think this is a reason why people didn't choose him later in the episode for the elimination. They don't want to really mess with him.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Because he might go far.
Yeah. Bear, because you don't want to pick someone, well, we can talk about that later, but Bear made it pretty far, Josh made it pretty far, Bananas. I wanted to notate that because Bear and Josh are still pretty new to the game, so that's very good for them. Bananas doesn't always make it far in these anymore. He's old, so good for him there. And then the winner was Rogan.
Yeah.
Rogan is... he's sort of someone that needs to prove himself. He actually won last season with a team.
Right.
He was part of 4 people that won. And he just has to prove himself, because when you win as a team, you're not taken as seriously as when you win by yourself, because you're kind of carried a little bit.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And he didn't go into an elimination last season.
Yeah.
So he didn't fight for his spot. And on the first season he was on, he got eliminated because he couldn't complete the first challenge. Like, he pooped out on a mountain. Oh, he's got all these big muscles and he couldn't run. So he's got a lot to prove. So he won the first challenge, which is good for him. What were you going to say, my dear?
Cool. Well, yeah, something I was going to say is that during the cut of the guys' game, they were, like, setting up this Rogan and Kyle, like, British dude anger thing, which was funny. And, like, in it, Rogan described himself, or he said that he put the Rogan in arrogant.
Yes, he did.
And I was
he
like,
said that. He said it's in the middle.
Yeah. I was like, I'm gonna need to write that down.
Yeah. How do you feel about Rogan? Do you like him?
Is
he too
I
arrogant?
watched the whole episode, and he's one of the tribunal dudes.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm pretty neutral. I think, like, I don't. It's hard because I can picture his face well. Like, he made an impression, but I just don't really know what kind of impression yet.
Yeah. So he's not... You don't know whether to like him or not. Which is understandable. I still don't even know. I get annoyed by him because he finds a way to somehow get into inner circles that he doesn't necessarily deserve. So he annoys me. But he's also funny. So... I do like Kyle a lot, though, and I know Kyle hasn't done too much this first episode, but he's funny as hell. I like Kyle a lot.
Yeah, Kyle is dramatic, and it was funny because when Rogan won, they did some cut of, like, Kyle being really mad that it was Rogan who won the first one. But yeah, it was cool. I liked the game. It did look hard. Like, that looked like it would be really exhausting, and so I was kind of, after watching that with the boys, I was like, I believe women are strong and can do anything that they put their mind to, but I was also kind of like, the girls are going to do that now. Like, they're going to do exactly the same thing that the boys did. Like, honestly, I wasn't actually prepared for that. I was surprised by that.
Yeah, and sometimes they do a lot of times have, like, an evening out factor where either their barrels weigh a little less, or they give them more time before the tanks come. They don't always explicitly show it or say it. They probably never do unless it's obvious. Like, sometimes it's obvious, jump this far and you can tell it's shorter or something. But
yeah,
a lot of times they do even it out in some way. And if not that, then the bar's just a little lower with things that are a little bit more physical sometimes. But the girls on this show kick ass. And there have been a lot of old school veterans who have said, I could never go back to the challenge because the standards are so much higher. Like,
oh shit,
you have to be like
just
a real athlete
standard
to get through this stuff. Whereas before, you had to just be able to run a couple miles and use your brain and strategize. Yeah. Now it's like, you gotta be a ninja warrior. You gotta have some muscles to get through this. So for the girls round, Jenny ends up winning. And Jenny has a lot to prove too. She has these huge muscles, these huge lips.
She's super stacked.
Yeah. But she didn't do that well last season. She did okay. She made it about midway. She lost in her elimination round against Tori. And
Tori sucked at math. That was something that I wrote down.
Yes, Tori sucked at math. Tori is engaged to Jordan, who is
right.
one of the champs from last year, the monk guy. So she did suck at math. So Jenny wins. And so I'm excited for Jenny. I feel like she's ready this season. She seemed hyper-focused. It may just be that this first challenge was catered to someone who was really strong and had endurance, which she seems to have.
Yeah, so something I wrote down that she said was that in preparation of this, right, like you said, like she was disappointed by how she did before. So she said that she was in the gym 6 days a week in preparation for this, and I was like, holy shit, yeah.
She said for the past 10 years, so she just means like I've been working hard at my fitness all my life. But
she also said when she did the math that she was doing her equations.
Yeah.
Like she knows that math is a thing. Something that did piss me off was that they didn't clarify if they were following PEMDAS rules for the equations.
You wanted to
and
see
I was
that.
like, yeah, like where are the parentheses, you guys? Like,
but I feel like you have to assume that it's PEMDAS, right?
No.
To solve the equation.
No.
I would do it without parentheses or not.
Well, so if you were following PEMDAS rules, like it would be a totally different answer than what they were doing. I'm pretty sure. Like this was just like literally like left to right, like
I don't think I was matching up anyone's answers. Like, I wasn't checking their math. I was just like...
Yeah. The way it was edited, it didn't matter. And also, like, it didn't show that everybody was doing... It didn't explain everyone was doing a different math problem, but you knew that they had to be.
Yeah.
And it was just weird. Yeah. And, like, different math problems are different difficulties, right? So that was, like, something that they also blew past.
Yeah, but if you had, like... 2 + 2 × 6 divided by 4, you would do the multiplication and division before you did the addition, wouldn't you? Even if there are no parentheses?
So the way that they, that some of the equations were, if I remember, were it was something like 46 plus 53 minus 51 divided by 48 or something. So, like, it wasn't actually, like, a clean... That's just what I remember. So, I don't know. I don't think there were that, like, many small...
I'm just giving an example. So, if I were them, I would do the division. Like, I would always just do multiplication and division first. So
I mean, that's what I would want to do, too. But, yeah,
you wanted the clarification. You wanted to know.
Yeah, as a viewer, it was like they were saying, oh, the viewers just see them doing a math problem, but they don't need to know what the math problem is. But they're showing the math problem, and I'm like... Would I be able to do this? You know, like, what are the PEMDAS rules? Like, are you doing this or not?
Yeah, I
wish they had talked about that.
Because they always say, and this could be an excuse, but it could also be hella true.
Yeah.
It's hot. I'm under pressure. It's the middle of a final.
I know.
I cannot even do 2 + 2 right now. I'm exhausted. Right. I've gotten no sleep. And I'm like, that's probably true. I mean, could it be an excuse? Yeah. Maybe you're usually bad at math. Yeah. But it's like the conditions, I think, I feel like that's what happened to Tori. She's like, there's just too much pressure. And Tori has a lot to prove too. She's this is like her 4th challenge, I think. And she still hasn't, her reputation got a little bigger than she actually proved. So I think she's still chugging along trying to prove.
Sorry, I literally ripped a hole in my shirt right now.
Oh my god.
I just had to mention that.
Today I was putting on some pants and there was like a tiny little hole in the crotch and I stuck my toe in it on accident. So it got way bigger.
Yeah, that's hella funny.
That happened earlier.
Good shit.
So the only other thing notable about the girls round, I wanted to notate that the people who made it to the 3rd round were Anissa, Casey, and Tori, along with Jenny and Dee. So Anissa is the most veteran player there. Anissa, well, okay, so CT's real world season might actually be older than Anissa's real world season, but Anissa has she's the most veteran challenger. She was on the earliest challenge that anyone else has been on. So it's good to see her excelling, because she's like 20,000 years old. So I just wanted to point that out. Casey's a rookie. Do you remember Casey? She's like,
I remember that she fell. I wrote down that she fell, and it was funny.
Okay. She has a cool vibe so far. She didn't really do much, but... And then Tori. So Dee was the second. She came in second. She's Australian, Asian. Dee.
She also has pretty big lip fillers.
Yeah. She's got big quads, too.
Oh, cool.
So, and she high-fives Jenny, and she's like, top 2 girls right here.
Right, yeah.
So I think she thinks her and Jenny are the ones to beat for the season. So I mean, do you think that's true? Do you have any idea yet? Could you say?
You know, so for one thing, I didn't clock Dee's accent as Australian. I thought she was British too. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I mean, like, again, like, there was definitely the luck element too of like the tanks in this. So, and the math and just like the conditions in general. That, I mean, Jenny looked hella strong, and like, yeah, from the way she like talked, I like totally could believe that she's like a real contender. But I don't know, it seems like there's so many people who still didn't even get introduced in this episode, so yeah. I wouldn't say like they're for sure the ones.
Yeah, for sure. Maddie got eliminated the second round, and she's expected to be a pretty big contender. So look out for her, but she got like hardly no screen time. But gotcha. Dee was one of the champions last season. She was the only girl that won last season with Rogan, CT, and Jordan. This is her third challenge, I think. I like her. She's a little weird sometimes, but I like her because she always proves people wrong, and she... Like, her team last season was not sure she was going to be able to do it endurance rise. And she proved them wrong. She fucking did it. And then her first season, she didn't know how to swim at all. And they, like, taught her to swim during the season. And she ended up winning, like, a swimming challenge thing.
Wow,
so
that's crazy.
I like her fire a lot. I like how she gets, like, she doesn't let things hold her back. I don't like when people say, like, oh, we're the best or whatever, though. So that rubbed me the wrong way. Yeah. But I do like Dee. Cool. And I like Jenny.
Yeah.
So Jenny and Rogan are in the tribunal. This is, like, the 100th time they've done the tribunal, and I'm so sick of it. So, yeah, the way that they're going to choose who goes into elimination, at least one person is going to be the tribunal. So, that's 3 people. Rogan and Jenny pick Corey. Because he's supposedly neutral, which is true. He doesn't have a whole lot of rivalries. He's kind of easygoing. He doesn't often... He has an agenda sometimes, but he's not married to it. You can give him a chocolate bar and he's like, aight. But, yeah, so that's the challenge. The challenge aspect.
So that was cool. I, like... yeah, it was kind of confusing. I'm glad I took a lot of notes because, like, yeah, when they said tribunal, I was like, what the fuck's that? When they were like, oh, they're safe from elimination, they take control of the game, I was like, what game? And then they, like, pick a third person, like, what's the strategy? Like, yeah, there was a lot for me to, like, comprehend. But, yeah, it was cool. I liked the game. It was weird and intense, and I wonder what it's like filming one of these things. Like, it's gotta be crazy. I wonder how long they take. I mean, some challenges take 5-6 hours just in time to run it. So like setting up things like that, I wonder, like, gosh. And sometimes they're in hot ass places. But and also, like, are they treated well? Like, you know, because they're the talent on the show, right? But they're being put through this really difficult shit. And so on, like, a regular non-reality show, like, if fucking Nicole Kidman's on your set, you're not going to be like, squat here, bitch, or whatever. You're going to treat her like royalty. And she's the talent. They're the talent. Like, what is the attitude like on set?
They do not treat them well. They are... I don't think they're, like, spitting in their faces and calling a piece of shit, but
right.
They give them mediocre food. They limit the food they have, like, stocked. They try to give you a lot of alcohol just so you get, like, crazy. They take away your phones, your books, your crosswords, anything that could amuse you, they take that away. They fine you if you break shit. You're not allowed to leave the house unless you all go together at a pre-approved destination, like the clubs, for example. Like, you can't... There are just so many things you can't do. And I remember there was this season, I think it was Rivals 2, this old school veteran, Trishelle, she, like, cut her foot open on one of the challenges, and they wouldn't let her see a medic.
Oh my god.
So and they're in places like the Philippines or Thailand, places where they're, like, it's not as comfortable for them to find a way to get to a hospital. They don't know the language.
Right.
So they wouldn't let her see a medic, so she ended up quitting the show.
Oh my god.
And they made it look like she quit because of, like, an argument that she had with Anissa, actually. So that's why she said she would never go on again, because they have, like, no respect for their well-being. And it's true, they don't have respect for their mental well-being, for sure. And then in instances like that, they don't care about your physical either.
Totally. And it also, like, I mean, what you just said makes me think of, did you hear about, I think this happened maybe like 6 months ago. Is it Godfrey Gao? He's like a Chinese American actor, and he passed away filming like a challenge reality show, like somewhere in Asia. Yeah, he died on the scene, like on set. It was some kind of running challenge, and like he had like a heart failure or something like that.
No,
a young guy who's been in like action movies and is an American star going to film this thing in Asia, and he died on set because, well, and people were talking about this, like, did they have enough medic staff? Were they anticipating something like this? Were they treating him well enough, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's like a heavy aspect, and like I'm sure that MTV is like covering their own asses, at least, even if they don't care about them. They don't want to get sued or bad publicity.
Yeah. And I mean, they always have medics at the challenges in case, but that was just something that was crazy. And I think the season overall is kind of meta, because they're literally putting him in bunkers and talking about it being total madness. And that's the way that they frame every season. They try to make them crazy so that they lash out and have these arguments and do crazy political things. And so it's what makes a great show, but it's also pretty sad for them. Okay, so now we're at the party aspect of the show. They run through the bunker. They're all expecting this great house, right? And then they go into the bunker. There's all these rooms. There's like these bunk beds. They always have bunk beds, but there's like nothing on the walls. It's small. They have like a toilet paper roll and less soap on their bed. So it's already saying like limited resources. There's no sunlight, no windows, nothing. You just feel trapped the entire time, I would imagine. And then the only good thing, they like go out into this main room. There's like an iron gym. Jordan called it 40 yards of turf. That was very important to Jordan, the like running thing. Totally. A stainless steel kitchen, swimming pool. And then the girls were screaming because they like found the fridge. There's a fridge. So what did you think of like the running through the bunker and all of those things?
Yeah, I mean, I liked it. It was funny, right? A couple things that were funny to me were like, and confusing, were, so they had lots of signs like in like Russian or something like that, like, which was weird. I'm like, where are they? And then also they had like missiles outside of the bunker, and I was like, that's a little bizarre. The aesthetic of like some kind of hangout room was like a weird naval control center.
Yeah.
Which was interesting. So it had like a unique vibe. And also, okay, it was kind of embarrassing, but what we talked about earlier, that you like have to be an athlete to win this show now, basically, makes more sense, because like they go to this big, gym, like you said, and there's this giant graffiti on the wall that says, and the graffiti looked like shit. Like it was all like, it was not authentic. Yeah. And it said like, something like the more you sweat in the gym, the less you bleed in the challenge, or something like that. And I was like, that's a little much, guys.
Well, there is this, and this has been happening for a long time, these like super muscly gymmed out guys, which doesn't always equal winning, you know, just because, you know, muscle doesn't always float. But anyways, they like judge a lot of times the girls for not like working out every day and doing this and running all these miles and blah blah blah. So they take away the fun out of people that just want to participate and have a good time and meet people and maybe strategize. They're like, you have to do all of this every day to be worthy of being on my team. So it's like you constantly have to prove yourself, and that has got to be stressful. Like you can't rest. You have to always be, people are always watching you. Nani has said, like, she's really good friends with Wes in real life, and because they've done a lot of shows together, and she's like, I love Wes to death, but on the challenge I can't trust him. I can't even have a conversation with him because I don't know what his intentions are, or what he's observing, or what he's going to do with our conversation. So like, there's no trust, even amongst friends. So putting them in a bunker, there's this big room. I like the big room because they kind of are forced to be in the same spot, which is great, because you can't click as hard. Or I mean, you can click, but it's kind of like everyone's sitting shit-talking different groups. Like, don't trust her, she does that. And they're all just getting drunker and drunker and talking shit. Which, you know, I'm here for that. I think that'll be interesting this season.
So they introduced way more, like, people at this point, right?
Yes. Any of them stick out to you?
Let me check my notes. A lot of it was on people's appearances. I apologize in advance. So they showed some flashbacks of like Wes. I wrote, Wes used to be kind of cute. Now has ginger beard that's huge.
That is new. He just grew that in the past year. He doesn't always have a beard.
Someone else who stood out was I wrote Jay from Survivor. I wrote that he was maybe the only cute one, but his hair sucks so bad.
His hair was definitely like mid-2000s skater boy.
Yeah, it was
and
bad.
He even had the beanie to boot, if I remember correctly.
He did.
I feel like he kind of has like an old young face. So like a young guy that probably was strung out on drugs. But that's just his face. I'm not, you know, asserting that he did that, but that's like his face vibe. So I feel like he needs a little facial hair maybe. And he has like the most American voice. You know how like DiCaprio has the most American voice? He could not be more American. And maybe it's just jarring because of all these lovely Brits. But I'm like, stop. You have the beanie, the hair. It's just too much.
Yeah.
But I ended up liking Jay.
Jay, that's pretty funny.
Well, we can talk about Jay extensively a little bit later, but I wanted to point out Ashley Mitchell. And is she ringing a bell? Let me read you her quote I have.
Okay, yeah, please do.
Because I love her quotes, so I wrote this one. This is the worst thing that's happened to me in my whole life. Yes, that's dramatic, but I've had a pretty easy life. I love that her. Bitch.
Yeah. No, I liked her. I wrote...
She's, like, Southern, too, so
yeah.
her one-liners are even
and she
better.
said she wasn't picky, and I just kind of... Yeah, I liked her vibe. She was really funny.
It's taken me a long time to like her because she's always on the opposite alliances than I am. But she just says the funniest shit. Mm-hmm. She's like a snotty rich bitch, but she owns it, so you kind of are like, all right, fine.
Yeah.
She's actually
that was cool.
Someone who's won the full $1 million before.
Oh,
she stole it from her partner. So instead of getting $500,000, she's like, I'll take his share too. Yep, she did that.
Dang.
All right. The Holy Trinity. Jenna, Nani, and Kayla. Any thoughts?
So they mentioned, this was the first alliance that they mentioned, and they named it as well. I can tell it's going to be important, but I think that Kayla and Jenna didn't make too much of an impression on me. Yeah. Like, Nani is really, like, main character of this episode. So.
Yeah, and Nani came back out of retirement a couple years ago. 2 seasons ago. This is her 3rd season back. Mm-hmm. I am Team Nani for sure. I don't like Kayla, but she's friends with Jenna. So, Jenna and Nani are best friends in real life. So, Kayla is being dragged along with it. Whatever. If it keeps Nani safe, I'm fine with that.
Gotcha.
Okay. So then, another big part of this party scene. So Nani determines right away she's thirsty for Asaf, right? Mm-hmm. Talks to him, has that heart-to-heart, which I believe is real. Nani is a very real person, so she connects with people easily. And Asaf, he bites the bait, man. Yeah. They end up in bed. We don't know how much in bed, but in bed. Mm-hmm. Making out.
That was really shocking to me.
Why?
I mean, I feel like for Nani, that's totally appropriate. Like, she can do what she wants. But I think that was such a bad move for him. Like, if that were me personally, I would be, like, super embarrassed. And also the fact that, like, wasn't he, like, not drinking? I don't know. He didn't seem like he was drinking like other people were.
At least in the beginning of the night. Yeah. He may have given in, but I don't... Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't really tell, but he seemed, if not more sober, literally, just, like, he had a more sober attitude, right? Like, that's what Nani was saying. Like... You're going to get stuff out of this. I know people seem fake to you, but blah, 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 right? Like, he was kind of bummed out, right? He wanted people to like him more, and they weren't. Yeah. And anyway, so I was just surprised that, like, it seemed like it mattered to him and that he would immediately, like, for no good reason, it seemed like complicate things by sleeping or cuddling with Nani. Like, that's so dumb, dude. Like, are you in it to win it or what?
Did you want them just to, like, incite a friendship?
I think they could have, like, set up some tension, but, like, it didn't have to be like
but this is reality, and they wanted to seal the deal. And
it just seemed like
good for Nani, because he ends up leaving and she got it in when she had the chance.
She did, and it is an interesting, like, gender scenario for sure, because, like, it was kind of irresponsible of Nani, because she definitely was in the position of power there. There was a power imbalance. True. You know? And she, like, didn't really give a fuck. I think if she was actually concerned about, like, him staying around, she might have cautioned him about, like, maybe we shouldn't do this because, like, it, you know... might not be great for you or something.
Yeah, and I also... There's a couple things about Nani, and one thing I like about her is at no point did she enlist the help of her friends to not vote for him for elimination. Like, she's friends with Wes, she's friends with Johnny. CT threw a bone her way, but she doesn't go campaigning for people... Right. That she wants to stay. She lets people stand where they stand. I like that about Nani, and I also like that. So Nani always hooks up with people. She is a free bitch, doesn't care. And she gets slut shamed for it from a lot of different girls on the cast that just don't like her and need a reason to not like her even more. And she still doesn't give a fuck. She hasn't slowed down, clearly. So I like that about her. She doesn't really care what people think. And she can have girl relationships as well, and they're successful. So she's a girl's girl and a boy's boy, or a boy's girl. So Team Nani for sure. Okay, so the elimination talk. CT kicks it off, volleyed from Bananas, of course. And then Asaf gets voted in over Jay.
Yeah. That was interesting. I guess, like, it was interesting that the tribunal can't see this process, right? That's what I read.
Yeah, sometimes it's some stupid-ass drama, but... At the end, Asaf votes for Wes, and Wes fucking whines about it.
Yeah.
Which is, not that it's uncharacteristic of Wes to whine, but I just thought it wasn't a good look. I mean, it was one vote. You weren't going to get voted in. He's crying like a little bitch.
Totally. No, I wrote that Wes is super bitchy. Like, he gave off a super bitchy vibe when that happened.
Perfect adjective for Mr. Wes.
Yeah.
Gotta say. Yeah, I didn't like... Sometimes Wes gets very embedded. Wes understands that this is a business and that he needs to play a part. He understands that very well. So he's very dramatic when he talks. He plays up the rivalry a lot.
Totally. He
plays up how he's intelligent and no one can touch him. He also plays up the fact that he's a veteran and that other people sort of need to kneel before him. So I feel like that's kind of what he was doing. But it definitely came off pretty whiny.
It was super weird. So yeah, they had this like Wes being bitchy moment, and then they like completely segued into like the alliance between Wes and Banana.
I was freaking out during this part, okay? I don't know about you, but I was like shaking. I was like, yes!
I did not understand it. I was so confused by the editing. I was like, the fact that, so they announced the alliance, and that's clearly done in their like individual interviews, but then next thing you have is the two of them in different outfits filming an interview together, which is the first time you're seeing something like that. And I was like, this is okay. Okay.
Well, they do different interviews like every week, so maybe that's a sign that they're sticking around for a little bit. But yeah, they've never worked together. They've always been on the opposite end of the spectrum. And the reason... Okay, so there's alliances... Alliances form in two different ways. There's alliances formed by friendship. And those are unbreakable if you're a good friend. And they make it the furthest. And there's alliances born by necessity. And that's what this is. Wes and Johnny a lot of times get kicked out in the first half of the season. In some cases, the first episode. Wes was kicked out the first episode last season.
Wow.
Because people gun for them. They're veterans. Yeah. They know a lot about the game. People just want to get him out. Plus, they're loudmouths. They're just like, fuck you, totally. I vote for you, I don't care. So by teaming up, they're combining a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience and a lot of allies. Johnny brings his set of people. Wes brings his set of people. And they will probably make it further than if they... Because a lot of times they go after each other, and they should be focusing on the rookies instead of going after each other. But they can't help it. It's like this magnetism.
Okay, that makes more sense then.
But I worry that they're going to shoot each other towards the end. See who can pull their first shot. I want to see them make it to the final together, and may the best man win. But I feel like once they don't... the necessity gets smaller and smaller, we're going to see one of them take a shot.
Interesting prediction.
And I do not want that to happen. I want them... because they should do this every fucking season. Like, him, CT, and Wes, that's like almost 50 years of challenge experience combined. Are you fucking kidding me? Okay. So the tribunal pick Wes, Jay, and Kyle as their nominees for the elimination. Rogan obviously picks Kyle because of their rivalry.
Right.
I think they pick... Why do they pick Wes? Just because he's Wes and he freaked out?
I wrote down that... So, Corey was the one who picked Wes. And he mentioned when he picked him that he knew that Asaf and Wes were fighting.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And then Jay, because he's a rook. He looks kind of small.
Yeah.
I just want to mention that I am really pissed that Swaggy C, is that his name? Didn't get thrown around at all. Just because of Bailey. That pisses me off.
That was so much. I could not stand that part.
I hate when people are so overprotective of their significant other.
Yeah.
That they don't even seem like individuals anymore.
Totally. I hated that.
It's like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
It's very annoying. I hope they throw them in together. Like, both of you go.
Yeah.
So, in the end, they choose Jay. Well, yeah.
So, the third person, yeah. So, they picked Wes, Jay, and Kyle, like you said, for interviews.
They do those intense little interviews and interrogation room. What did you think of that? Because that's something they've done the last handful of seasons.
Yeah, so it made me like Jay more because he made a good point for himself.
Yeah.
Like, he said that because he's a rookie, like, normally you guys go for rookies at this stage, but, like, don't pick me because, you know, you'll gain an ally if you do that, right? And so I think that was important, too, because, like, he ends up winning elimination. He's actually, like, winning the game at the end of this episode compared to everybody else. And they didn't take him up on his offer at this point in the interrogation. So he's kind of made some enemies in a way with this tribunal. So that was interesting.
Yeah. The thing I noticed and liked about Jay was that he seems to either have been a challenge fan or he did his research. Because he knows how the game works a little bit. More than the average rookie, at least. He says, he pulls the rookies together, says, we're going to be voted in. That obviously happens. He goes in saying, use Asaf to take out a vet. Like, you don't even have to do anything. You can use me as an... He's offering himself for an alliance. And he just takes it when he gets voted in eventually. But I like Jay. He has an advantage if he does know prior challenge seasons. Hopefully he knows more than just, like, I looked into it for 2 seconds, but he seems to have a grasp on it in a way that the other rookies don't.
Yeah.
So I like that. Kyle says it's too early to take him out during his interview.
Right.
He agrees not to go for Rogan. He's like, I won't go for you if you don't go for me, essentially. And then Wes says...
Wes was hella bitchy and cryptic. And, like, it was weird.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you doing?
He, like, says nothing.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't have any friends here. Am I going in?
Do it if you want to. Like, he didn't, like, argue for himself at all. It was...
Which is very un-Wes. He's known as a political mastermind. You take that as you will.
Okay.
So, I feel like he has something up his sleeve. Like, I feel like... At least one person in that room is in his alliance.
Yeah.
Because Johnny and Wes have not revealed their alliance people. Wes does this thing where he reaches out to, like, half of the cast before he enters the house. So he's got people in his pocket, but he's trying to make it seem like he doesn't. So...
Right.
And I feel like they're trying to keep us in the dark at the same time.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because Wes doesn't just do that. He doesn't just go like, oh, whatever. Fuck. Okay, so the elimination, the last part of the episode. Right. It's called Purgatory. he says this is the place between heaven and hell.
Yeah.
There's more graffiti on the walls. I didn't read those. Perhaps you did.
I did not.
The tribunal, Rogan agrees to squash the beef with Kyle, and he secures the vote for Jay. So Jay goes in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Were you surprised by this?
So, I think I was kind of bummed. Something that I wrote down in my notes was that Jay versus Asaf, is that, like, the only two cute ones?
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, it was fine. And, like, with the outcome, I think, you know, I think it was actually, like, a good setup because, like, the naive, nice one is the one who leaves. And the one who ends up being, like, more cunning and having more skills than you'd expect is the one who stays.
Yeah.
So, like, I think it set actually a pretty good tone for the season. So, I think it was a good matchup.
Yeah, and this is where sort of putting your money where your mouth is comes into play because we get the impression that Asaf has been going around saying he's savage, he's like amazing, no one can beat me, I'm a warrior, but he doesn't take time to think about the actual elimination game because as soon as I saw it, not saying that I could do this, I would have fallen immediately. No. But as soon as I saw it, and we've never seen this game before, this is new. This is a new elimination. I was like, you should just hang. Don't even try to hit the other person. Yeah. It's just endurance. And he was like, instantly started trying to go for Jay. So you see in the first round, Jay is hanging. And Asaf is holding himself up. Right. Which is like, you're not going to win by doing a pull-up forever. Yeah. And you're also thrashing. Like, so, yeah, he loses the first round.
So that was something that so they didn't clarify at the start, or maybe I just didn't catch it, but they didn't say that it was a best of 3.
They did say that, yeah.
Oh, they did? Okay. Well, I didn't realize it. I was like, man, neither of them have done anything like this before, and it's just the first one to fall loses. Like, that decides it, you know?
Yeah.
I was like, when you do something for the first time, you're bound to fuck it up. I'm like, that just seems crazy. So when, like, the first guy fell, right, I was like, oh, it's over. But then, like, they go back up, and I was like, oh God, okay.
God, get your feet wet,
yeah, you can be bad at it for the first time and still win. Yeah, but that's not what happened.
Yeah, I mean, they don't always do that. Sometimes it's just one, and you're done. And I hate those because it's over so quickly. And you're right. There's a total like acclimate yourself to the situation and adapt factor to it. And Asaf does change his strategy in the second round. He does hang, and he doesn't thrash around as much. I think he does it a little bit, but Jay just has the form down, and he just has the grip and the forearm strength, and because he does this so much. Whereas Asaf is probably better than a good amount of people that would have gone against him, perhaps, because he's small and wiry, and
I thought he was pretty built, but okay.
Well, I mean, compared to like a Rogan or a CT, like,
okay,
you know, it's easy to hold his body up,
right?
But Jay didn't budge like at all.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that was cool, and like I liked. So I got the sense that they were editing it and like cutting in a lot of like interviews with the people who were watching and stuff like after the fact.
God, I love those.
That I got the sense that they were editing it to make it look like more of an even match than it actually was, and that anyone watching it would have been really clear that like Jay was gonna win it basically immediately, because I think they only basically had one shot where it was like far away and you could see both of them what they were doing. And it was like, man, like Asaf's like really struggling, and it's obvious from far away.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was kind of sad, but, like, I don't know. I thought it was, like, interesting as a challenge and, like, hard to imagine yourself doing it and things like that. So, yeah, it was entertaining for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I liked Asaf from the beginning. I thought he was cute. There was just so much Asaf during the episode that I think I ended up being okay with him going home. Because I liked Jay's fire. He seems fucking ready.
And he said, something that he said that I wrote down was that he said he got his strength from his mother.
Yeah.
That she's had 13 aneurysms.
Fuck.
And still wants to survive.
Yeah.
And, like, the way that he put that and, like, is talking so outright about your own parents' like mortality and will to live. I'm like, that's a person who's actually like gone through some shit and has thought about some big things, which was surprising from this dude with a beanie and bad hair. But what's cute about him is, yeah, like you said, his old man face. And I just love, I love people who have like dark brown eyes. And he does.
Oh, okay.
With like pale coloring. I think it's really cute.
Well, you're not the only one. It seems like Dee is
right.
interested in
They
him.
edited that in. I was like, oh my god, Dee. Get it, girl.
I wonder if that's going to be a thing because I don't know if I want him to be with Dee.
Mm-hmm. Well, especially because earlier in the episode, Rogan said something really uncomfortable about Dee. And I was like,
What did he say?
He said to someone like, oh, Dee's got the bunk above me or something like that.
Yeah.
Something about that. And I was like, ugh.
Yeah, they're exes.
Oh, okay.
That's why they showed that clip of her laughing like major cock block. Like, so he's not going to be able to hook up underneath them. I mean, he probably will, but Dee raises hell when she's angry.
Oh, okay. I actually wrote that down. I didn't talk about it, but I was like, why did she say that she was a cock block and not a cock tease? Because it feels like it, but you saying that they have history, I'm like, that's why it's a cock block. Gotcha.
So, yeah, last season, he, like, broke her heart. So,
oh, shit.
She deserves some revenge.
Yeah,
cool. I think Jay would treat her well. Now I'm kind of like, now that I remember that she got her heart broken last season, I'm like, okay, Dee. She kind of seems like she would chew him up and spit him out, though, but we'll see.
Cool.
So he wins.
Yeah,
and he gets what TJ calls the red skull on his helmet, which I assume they'll be getting at some point in the future.
Yeah.
Which means TJ says he's the only one qualified for the final.
Right.
And he drops the bomb that they all have to make it through an elimination in order to get to the final.
Yeah, so that was something that they said in the trailer, which meant nothing to me at the time.
Yeah.
Like, now I think I understand it. Yeah. It was funny too because they had cut some things in that like original like almost opening credits part that you mentioned, and then also in the trailer and promo leading up to this was kind of like the third or fourth time that I heard, is it TJ?
Yeah.
TJ saying the same line, something like, I'm done with people going under the ring. I'm done with people just blah blah blah. I was like, oh my god, dude.
Yeah. Okay,
he's done.
Liz, we're not going to be able to continue this if you don't absolutely adore TJ, because he's everything.
I do not. I mean, he's a meme. I adore him as a meme.
I mean, and I love, because like for example, if you quit or something, TJ judges you so hard. He's like, what are you gonna do, quit? Are you a quitter?
So was he a competitor on this show?
No.
You said he was on Real World, but
no, he's not on Real World. He's a BMX like biker or something like that. He's a biker for sure. I don't know if there's other branches, but he has just been the host of the challenge since I think season 10.
That's so weird. Okay.
So he's been for like 25 fucking seasons. He's been hosting this shit. He has like the best job ever. He gets flown out to these locations. He can bring his family. He can bring friends. He just yells
at people. Yeah.
He comes. He films his lines. Then he goes and just does whatever he wants.
Yeah. Damn.
He gets the best lodging. He has. His only conditions are like he can bring whoever, and then he has to have the best lodging, even of like the producers and stuff. Like, TJ
Wow.
chills. But,
Wow.
yeah, so Jay has the Red Skull.
Mm-hmm.
And that's interesting, too, because the like, imagine Jay, this little itty-bitty rookie, going against, so like, if they had put Wes in there, or Kyle, who at this point is a veteran. You know, a lot of people might be cheering for the other side. I would be cheering for Wes or Kyle, but it gives people like Jay the opportunity to fight for their spot. And that doesn't always happen. And it also opens up spots for people that wouldn't normally be there. So, like, people skate by, they take these spots without really earning them. So now everybody has to earn it. Yeah. And that other person has a shot to show their heart and make it. And that's what the show's about. Like, my favorite people a lot of times are people who fight like dogs to get to the end by going through all of these crazy eliminations. And you just see, like, this warrior in them. And that's what I live for on the challenge. So to put everyone through that, people we haven't seen in fucking years do an elimination, is going to be cool. You know?
Ah, that's so cool.
Yeah. What do you predict in terms of how this is going to change the strategy of the show?
Well, so it was nice because they spelled it out a little bit for people who haven't seen it like me. So they literally said, like, alliances aren't going to be as important. And that, like, your strategy now is that you want to go to elimination, right? Instead of trying to hide from it. So it did make me wonder, like, has this been a rule before? And, like, what are the sorts of strategies that people end up doing? Like, do you want to make more personal drama because it means you're on people's bad side so that you get sent to elimination? Or is it, like, because everyone's aware of it and they probably have this voting ability to send you to elimination, it's like maybe alliances are important because then you can get people to send you to elimination. Like, it's confusing. Like what is there a protocol for a situation like that? Yeah,
I definitely didn't agree with the alliances are an important part. I think Nani said that, which I think she was just saying as a one-liner for the producers, but alliances are going to get you in rather than out. Right. So it's just reversed. And I predict that it's all based on who the tribunal is the day of. So I like that aspect of the show too, is you can't just choose your tribunal. It has to be, like, last season it was like if your team won, you could choose anybody on your team to be in the tribunal, and it was like you're just choosing alliance members. So in this case, you can fight to be in the tribunal. Jay could be in the tribunal next time just because he outperformed, and that's awesome. That's an awesome aspect to the show. So 2/3 of the tribunal that's just how it worked out this time, but most of the tribunal will be having earned it. So based on who those people are, then alliances will dictate who goes in. So let's say someone in Wes and Johnny's alliance is in the tribunal. Then their alliance people will vote. Let's say CT wants to get in this time. They'll vote CT in, and then the tribunal, being in CT's alliance, will pick 3 people they know CT can beat. And vote them in. So it'll work backwards, but the alliances will still be almost more important. Because it's almost like setting up a fantasy draft or something. I want you to go against this person, and do they want to do it sooner? I'd rather do it sooner, probably.
Exactly.
Because then you're just weeding out the bad people. And
so timing matters a lot more, and, like, finding the good time. And, like, how do you even know that as a competitor? Because it seems like you show up on elimination day and you don't know what the challenge is going to be. So for, like, Jay and Asaf, right? Jay happens to be a climber. Asaf would have won if it was maybe something like a tug-of-war competition. Right. But, like...
Or something that took more balance or something, where his dancing ability would help. But, like, let's say CT, who's, like, this big hunk of a man, and who is still athletic despite the fact that he's like 60 pounds heavier than he used to be. He could say, I want to go against little Swaggy C, you know? What if Swaggy C is like a fucking mathematician or something?
Yeah, exactly.
And then it's a mental challenge, which does happen. And then CT loses, and you're like, fuck.
Yeah,
so
exactly. So it could be like,
yeah.
It adds the drama of like, you think you're doing the right thing, but it could totally lead to an upset in an embarrassing or unpredictable way.
Yeah. And so that's when you are going to want your friends at the tribunal, because if you're smart, you're going to look at what the game looks like. And if you've been there a few times, you can kind of sense what something is based on what the outline of the setup looks like. So they can change their answer at the end. Be like, no, Swaggy C is going to be good at this. Let's pick this guy.
Yeah.
So they did something similar to this on the island as a previous season, where everyone had to get a key to make it to the end.
Right.
And people were fighting to get into these elimination rounds. And it got really messy because you had to have an order. It's like, okay, you'll go next time. You'll go next time.
Yeah.
But there's all of these people wanting to go, and it just gets messy. It's like you're playing with people's fate, and so.
And also, it's like, something about it is it's the illusion of control. Like, you think that you could time it and strategize, but ultimately, like, it's really just raising your expectations, where it's like, I worked so hard, I worked my alliances, and now I'm in a matchup against like someone I think I can beat. But that's just like raising your confidence in something that ultimately you might still lose for a reason that like is totally not fair, or like something whatever. So it's a very good like emotional device for something like this.
Yeah, and you can look totally stupid. You contrived this whole scenario, and you lost, and you're like, well, fuck.
And you could still have this like embarrassing ass defeat in the first 2 seconds, which is like, honestly, kind of, I think what a soft deal was that like, this was kind of a pretty embarrassing loss, and it was like for someone where the loss meant more, and it was also a guy who had just hooked up with like a veteran the night before. Like, there was just a lot of like kind of humiliating elements about it that like I could see, you know, part of my personality was kind of like, damn, dude, like seeing the humor, like, geez. But the other part is just like, if that were me, like that really would have made it so much worse. And to see the editing after the fact, like, so there was this elimination interview at the end, which I couldn't tell if it was like, is that in the normal airing, or was it because I was watching it on MTV.com?
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah. After the credits. That was not normal.
Okay.
I couldn't tell if it was satire or if they're going to do this every episode.
Yeah, I was not sure exactly what that was, but it was like a fuller interview than just like the sentence he got in. After he lost. And the sentence that they edited in the main episode was that like, oh, I'm sorry, Nani, and like made it seem like he talked about Nani, but in this full interview, like, he's really mostly talking about like how much it sucked to lose that, because he knows how important it is for his country that like people from his country shows don't get represented much in this show, and that like for him to be here means more than, and he was waiting for that call. He worked so hard to get the call than for other people who are like guaranteed to be there. And for him to go out in the first time, it seemed like that was way more on his actual mind. But then they just edited in the shit about Nani. And if I was, you know, a soft watching that and being like, but I said all this other stuff, and you just put in the thing that makes me even more embarrassed. Yeah, I was like, damn.
Yeah,
damn,
no, for
dude.
sure. And that's a novice mistake, too, because... you know, you have to learn over time not to blame the editors. You have to just try and give them the bare minimum of what you want to get across.
Right.
And so that they can do that, because the editors will fuck you.
Yeah, and that's totally what happened.
Yeah, poor Soph. This was not a good... I was so excited for him, and then... Yeah, he shouldn't have hooked up. It was not a good look.
No, it was sloppy.
I always say that Rooks should wait a couple nights just to get acclimated, figure stuff out, figure out how you're going to look.
It's never gonna... I feel like it's basically never gonna be in your advantage to hook up with somebody the first night on a fucking reality show. No.
Yeah, and because I also thought, like, they were forming something beauteous, right? Mm-hmm. And then it ended up just being, like, a drunk hookup.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, didn't TJ mention something other than a red skull too? Like there was a blade on the other side?
Yeah. So he said that there's 3 things you can get on your helmet, and it's going to be skulls, daggers, or nothing. Oh. And then he didn't explain what the daggers were, and then he also didn't say what the red shit meant. Like, why is it a red skull? Can you have a different color skull?
No, red skull is for when you win your elimination. Mm-hmm. So I assume that all of them are going to be red skulls once they finish elimination.
Okay, so it's not going to be red skulls, blue skulls, black daggers, black...
It could... No. Yeah, it could be. Know. This could be forming teams. Okay. It could be forming skull teams, or it could be skulls against daggers against nothing. Mm-hmm. You know, like, I'm not really sure. So...
It was interesting that they mentioned it, given that they didn't explain it. But
yeah, they like to reveal things as you go, you know. Yeah. That way they can always say, this is the biggest twist since the last biggest twist ever.
Totally.
Yeah, so what are your thoughts overall? Would you give it a rating? Did you enjoy it for the most part?
I enjoyed it, and, like, I think it'll start to be more fun for me once I get more of a handle on, like, how the things go and who the people are. Like, yeah. Because right now it's just, like, I'm, like, it's information overload. Plus with the editing, it is total madness.
It is. Yeah. No, I see what you did there. But I could not... I wish I could see it through your eyes. I mean, I can kind of envision how you're feeling, but it's just, I've just been watching it for so long. I literally can't remember a time in which I wasn't watching this show. Yeah. And it all comes naturally. Like everything you pointed out as weird, it didn't seem weird. So I can't imagine not having a grasp on it, because that would be so disorienting. And you're constantly trying to figure out, who is that again? Like, why is this important? So, I feel like by the time we get a few episodes in, it'll be easier for you to figure out how you feel about everything, and it's going to be good. And you'll have teams, you'll have people you're rooting for, hopefully other than Jay. I like Jay too. I'm rooting for Jay.
Yeah, it'll be fun, and it'll also be interesting too, having like a record of what our, like, my initial opinions were at the start too. So
okay, well, that was the recap.
Yay.
I think that went good. I was excited. I liked the episode.
Yeah, next week should be good. So speaking of, this show comes out every week. Yes. Right?
Yeah, it comes out tomorrow. The next episode.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, Wednesday nights on MTV.com. But I don't like to watch it in real time. For some reason, it feels more intimate when I watch it on my laptop. It harkens back to those college days. I don't know.
Totally. Yeah. So we'll talk about that real soon. But before you go, how are you feeling about the names?
Oh yeah. Let me look at this list. Should we pick like a top 3 to talk about, or should we eliminate?
No, I think we should just put it out there. I'm gonna say my number 1 is for J-Joel. Okay. And I'm fine with FORJGL spelling for the official version. I still want that IKEA flavor at some point.
Okay.
But that's definitely my number one. Probably not very surprising. I think my number two is gonna be something like Bitches for Jajal or Topping Jajal. I think Jajal just has a lot of energy to it.
Yeah.
And then maybe my last one would be something like Bar Talk Confessional.
Yeah. I definitely like Bar Talk Confessional.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm so conflicted because I don't have a problem with any of your top three.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of Bitches for Jajal.
Mm-hmm.
But I also don't know if I want that to be our official name.
Yeah. I think if we do for Jajal, then we could like swap out bitches for lots of other things whenever it fits our mood, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
but when would we mention it?
Philosophers for Jajal.
So would we just be like, welcome to our podcast. This is brought to you by Bitches for Jajal, and then the next episode, Philosophers for Jajal, Lesbians for Jajal.
I think
when would this become relevant?
Out as we go. It could be a good way of doing like random segments or like bringing or even changing the topic of the show, you know? Like, let's have an episode where we're talking about fucking young adult romance novels for Jajal. And we're giving him our hottest recs.
So right now, are we challengers for Jajal?
I think we're challengers for Jajal right now.
All right, so let's do for Jajal, but we do have the official spelling.
Yes, the official spelling.
Should we ever do any marketing, you can put your fluffy IKEA spelling if you want.
Exactly, and we can know that it has both Gabby and Liz in it.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Cute.
Why did I forget about that again?
Oh my god, I'm gonna be reminding you every minute.
I like it.
Yeah. We should say goodnight, but before we do, let's just real quick walk down memory lane and talk about the first time we met, because this was our first episode of For Jajal, which is the Gabby and Liz Together Forever podcast.
Best friends forever.
Yeah. So when did we meet, Gabby?
We met, gosh, it must have been September of 2011, sophomore year. So we were moving into a triple, and none of us knew well, you actually knew the other person in our triple. I did not know either of you. And I moved in a week early because I was a move-in assistant. So I went in, moved in, neither you nor the other person were there. And I remember I was coming back from something, and I can't remember if I was alone. I might have been with someone, but I came in and you were like, I think putting up signs for like, or like posters or pictures, something above your bed. Yeah. Cause you were top bunk. You guys were both top bunk. I was the bottom bunk. And then, we always have this joke that you're like, that I like thought you were this Mormon chick. Yeah. Because I remember you in all black. I feel like you were wearing pants.
I was wearing
a skirt.
Like, a long skirt.
Yeah, it was either like a skirt over pants or like this long skirt. And your hair was in a bun. And you weren't super high energy. And you're not necessarily super high energy when you meet somebody. Right. So you were just like, hey, I'm Liz. And I came in super high energy. I feel like I was with a friend or something. Because I was really high energy. And I had been there a week, so it was like... Yeah. I was a lot already. And I was like, oh, this girl is, like, reserved. She's just, like, this like, quiet,
so
mousy Mormon girl.
The reason I was reserved, I think this is how I remember it going, is... so my parents were, like, coming down again, like, helping me move, again. And the previous year I had been in a double, and the third person in our triple sophomore year was my roommate for like the last half of my freshman year.
Right.
So I knew her and had lived with her for some time, but we didn't know you. But we decided we wanted like a cheaper thing. Like, let's do a triple. Let's like hang out with someone cool or random, or let's just do it. And so we had communicated a little bit over like Facebook or something, like knowing that we were gonna all be roommates, but like hadn't really gotten to know each other. Plus, like, everything on Facebook's fake as fuck. So. Like, who knows anything? I'm sure we could look at that conversation and be like, "Oh, hi, I'm Liz. I'm interested in this. I'm super excited to meet you."
Oh my God, I've never tried to go back to that conversation.
Yeah, I'm sure it exists. But anyway, so my parents were like, "Oh, maybe you can get there early and you can get the best one." Like, they were already like, it's gonna be a lot smaller, like you have to like make sure that like nobody like dominates your space. And so we came in and you were like already like fully fucking moved in and had your shit in like random places. Like, you put like a water boiler in the desk under my, like, that would be my desk. And I was like, oh my God, she's like spread everywhere in this room, like my parents' strategy.
Well, I'd been there a week. I was just chilling. I was like in a bachelor pad. I was like, this
and
is
I
nice.
had no idea that you had been there for a week, and that you had that there was no point to us like trying to be there early in the morning to like.
I remember our other person trying to be like, should we assign beds or something? And I was like, no. First come, first fucking serve. Because my freshman year, I spent every motherfucking day running my head into the ceiling on the top bunk. Every day. And you could say, why didn't you not do that one day? But it's 8 a.m., you're disoriented, and I just did every day of my life. And I was determined to get
And you put in the work, bunk. Right? You were there a week early to do work.
I signed up to be a movement assistant. I was like, I'm getting the bottom bunk. Fuck everybody else.
Earned it.
Yeah, I did.
Yep, that was the first time we met. It's pretty cute.
Yeah, but what during the actual meeting, what did you think?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. I think like I think I was curious, and also we ate together, I think, that first night.
Yeah.
Like, and so I was like, oh, this girl's friendly, and like that was a nice change from sophomore year in general was an awesome change from freshman year, because freshman year I was really like on my own a lot of the time. I joined a frat, but that was like a weird sort of like, is this even real friendship? Who are you people? I like didn't quite fit in there either. And so like sophomore year totally changed the game. And I think like I was optimistic that first night, and like when we met I was like, I feel like I could get along with her, but like I think it probably wasn't till like maybe the end of the first week that I was like, oh, this girl's my girl.
Yeah, and I just remember specifically that I was like, okay, I'm gonna invite her to go to dinner with me and our other friend, and well, she's our other friend now. But you didn't know her. But I was like, I'm going to invite her to go to dinner. And you said yes. And I was surprised by that, because you don't necessarily take up every invitation someone gives you. It was your first day. You don't know me from Adam. I know I was super high chaotic energy. You were Mormon. There were just so many factors as to why you wouldn't say yes. And you're like, sure. And I was like, okay. And you were awesome at dinner. I remember you were funny. We were relating to you. I liked you instantly. There wasn't a time when I didn't like you.
Aww, cute.
And then a couple nights later, I think I invited you to a party. You were like, sure. So I always think about you as being like down for everything.
Aww.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's so cute.
First meetings.
Yeah.
First meetings and first episodes.
First meetings, first episodes.
Change our podcast name.
Yep, that's it.
Fuck you.
Well, let's go to fucking sleep, okay?
Yes. Just like the book says.
I'll talk to you soon, or let's end this recording.
Okay.
And say goodbye to anyone who made it this far.
Everyone. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.